to bring it to another angle of this aspect, and I just want to draw light to that angle. And I might be so that there's maybe we can even experience that there's a big part of this is still animal, right? And that some of our reflexes are is maybe genetically or culturally and propagated, biologically. But if I look at on the big scale, like the country where I'm coming from, Holland, was in war with Germany. It was because of the identification with a certain nationality. Most of the wars that are happening are identification because of identification with a certain nationality. Now, I don't see the animal in that. You see, I think what is it in us that is it inevitable that we identify ourselves with a bigger group, and thus we're always inevitably always inevitably going to lead to war. I'm putting the question deliberately that way because if we say, well, I'm an animal, so I'm violent, then end of discussion. I mean, unless your magical, whatever, the meditation sets you free, and that's of course, but that's a theoretical thing. So that's why I want to bring it back. I mean, the fact that we identify ourselves separates us. I mean, nationality is a very big one, but on many smaller levels we also identify. So, what is it? What is required to bring about a change in that, or is it inevitable? If I grow up in America, I will be an American. I will identify with America. If I'm in my student years, I say, well, I'm not American, but as soon as I have property, or as soon as America is attacked, then suddenly I'm a patriotist. Or if I'm Dutch, the same thing. Is that a deep root? Is that deep-rooted conditioning? Are we enslaved to that, or is each of us able to become aware of that and be free of that? That's what the question is.
Humans are naturally social. And you're always going to have your group and your thing, but what we're looking to do is make it so that instead of thinking that you're this, that we're all together. You know, I'm with you and you're with me, but you know, it's everyone as well. It's not just that I'm an American, that I'm German. And you're always going to have that group that you connect to because, you know, alone we are weak, but together we have won.
I totally agree with that, and I think that what that doesn't explain, yes, we may be social, and because of that we identify with certain groups. That doesn't explain, or maybe it does, but that doesn't mean that we then go out to destroy other groups.
And that's kind of in reaction to fear of their group.
Fear.
Yeah.
So it comes down to fear.
I would say fear.
Or competition of resources.
Okay.
Which is another biological prerogative. And as social groups, we find that our troop of interacting humans build better society, have a better living situation if we all work together, and they're encroaching on our hunting grounds, so we kill them, and then they're not a problem on our hunting grounds. So, I mean, the reality is, the problem with that is that's what we used to do when we were troops and tribes and smaller things, but we're still doing that even though
even though it's not necessary
in our society. There's
and that's the
plenty to go around, and like the other thing is like the planet suffers from that as well.
Exactly. So somehow, so the question is that so because we were brought up that way 100,000 years ago, whatever, 20,000 years ago, that's in our social fabric, in our cultural structure, and we transmit that even in a biological structure. Is it that it has to function now? Is it inevitable? Is it in you? Is it in me? Is it because I am Dutch? I'm inevitably always separate from you as an American. Is that what it is?
No, I don't think so.
So that's my question.
Right. Well, I don't think it's inevitable. Nothing's inevitable because we're thinking and feeling creatures.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we could think ourselves into or out of the box if we wanted to. It's just a matter of deciding that
to do it.
Yeah, deciding to do it and taking the steps to do it and realizing that there's greater purposes for all of us, or that as a species we need to recognize that if we fight and kill each other, we're not doing our species any good,
Mm.
or the planet, or whatever else we're responsible for or beholden unto. I don't think it's inevitable. I just don't know how to do it.
And if you look at your own life, what is it then that prevents you from doing that? Or?
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to get by at this point. You know, that's my selfish needs are being met. I'm going to school to get educated because I want to get educated, and because I know that without a degree in a capitalist society, I'm not going to make enough money to either impart change on the world or survive with a comfortable lifestyle. So, I mean, that's what is driving my actions right now. The reason I don't, go and kill someone who
You don't have time.
full
Schedule.
Exactly. And I know that once I'm in jail, I'm not going to be doing much good in there.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's a good decision.
There's enough license plates already. Thank you. My mother's side of the family is insane. You can attest to that.
he doesn't jest.
They're insane. But my mother is not. And at some point, she became friends with someone.
She wasn't.
Well, she was insane for a moment. And then she became friends with someone. They kind of accepted into her family, and she learned that her family was insane. And then she raised me, and I'm not insane. And that's, so she's kind of gotten that same idea of let's not hit them. And then she taught me that, and I've taught other people that, and I've kind of pushed that forward, and that's the kind of that progressive thing that moves it forward. It's not going to be an all at one thing, but she grew up in the hippie movement and became like the beginning of the globalization thing, and everyone that I know our age kind of agrees that, oh yeah, they're in Russia, okay, that's cool. I'm on Earth too, and I think that owes a lot to how connected we've become, and that eventually is going to tear down those national borders. Because you look at the revolutions that happened in Egypt and Tunisia, and those were very in their own place, but that was also getting help from across the world through the internet and through that ability to communicate around the world. I think we're closer than we've ever come to having that unified world of peace and kind of being done with it all. Do I think I'll see it in my lifetime? That's a really hard question to ask, and I'm not sure. I think I'll see the beginning of it, and I think my kids might see it. I think that the right track is to begin with just implanting that idea of, hold up, let me stop and think for a second. That thought process before you go into your animalistic instincts. I actually have to run, but so
Thank you.
not a problem.